Welcome back to another episode of Old World USA with me, your host, Jack Stevenson. Today we're going to be looking at the World's Fair in Chicago 1893, the Columbian Exposition, where we find a lot of lies indeed. So as I've been going through this video that's been set up nicely, fortunately for my friend who has created this slideshow for me to view, he's got some very interesting information in here. Unfortunately, he's not allowed to actually create videos himself because his position is a position in Chicago, government position, not high up in the government, but he has access to information, and if he were to make a video, he would lose his job. So he's provided this for us, and I'm also going to be going through some pictures from the event, and we're going to talk about how this story is not what you've been told. They're lying to you. 100% they're lying to you. So this is just some of the things that were at the event, the random things that were invented there. Movies were invented at the Chicago World Fair, apparently. Movies had never been seen before until this event. Hot dogs, believe it or not, but the hot dog had not been invented until the Columbian Exposition 1893. Now, doesn't that sound kind of odd to you? Putting meat in a sausage shape and placing it between bread, that had not been invented yet. The indoor ice skate, so apparently an ice rink indoor, never been heard of before this event. The Ferris wheel was another invention that did not exist, supposedly, before this event, although I personally have seen photographs of what I would describe as Ferris wheels, which date from before this, but official history. The washing machine, can you believe that? A washing machine had not been invented before this. A massive refrigeration building, that is exactly how it sounds. They've taken a fridge and a building, and they've combined them. And that building actually burnt down. That's what they want you to believe, that they had created this massive refrigeration building, and it mysteriously burnt down during the event, and it killed a lot of people. People could not escape. And in fact, terrible story, they climbed to the top of the building, attempting to escape the flames, but ultimately they could not, and people on the ground had to watch them burn. That's because clearly this building that they found, they did not understand the technology which was inside of it. They found it, they've attempted to rewire it, they've tried to create it, a modern version, because obviously the technology was broken when they found it. It doesn't work anymore. So they've had to find ways to introduce their own electrical current, their own power systems, to power this building, this refrigeration building. Now, evidently, this is how the people that lived here before, I won't say Tartarians, because that's a psyop. They're not Tartarians. These people are the Native Americans, and not like the Native Americans they show you. These are the real Native Americans. These are the people that were in contact with Rome and Greece and building the same kind of things at the same time as them before the old world was cut off from the new world, which is what we are. Here in Europe, we are the new world, whereas the old world is in the USA, which is how they find this massive refrigeration building. Now, evidently, these people, they would have used these buildings to store mass amounts of food for all the population. Can you imagine that? Not having individual fridges in each home for each person, but having a local massive refrigeration building where you could turn up every day and pick up your food. Because this was a different type of society. Somebody came along and they said, this would be an excellent consumer product. Let's turn it into something smaller, put it in somebody's house. And how do they do that? Well, they burn it down. They burn down the refrigeration building. Oh, it's not safe. But we've created a smaller one. This is small, you don't have to be inside it, you'll be safe. And now the moving walkway, that again, it just shows this was a reconstruction. They found this technology and they've said, okay, let's showcase this. But I believe personally that there is evidence at this event that the moving walkway originally went around the whole thing. So we can see on this picture, at the bottom is the the moving walkway. It seems to be just part of the pier. But if we look up, we can see the same kind of colouring on the docks outside the main industrial building here. So this would be the manufacturer's building. The manufacturer's building was the largest building ever built in the whole world. And they want you to believe that they built it and then tore it down. Incredible. If you look at this picture, you can see the size difference between this building and all the rest. And of course, they say that these were temporary. But in front, you can clearly see what looks like the moving walkway going around the entire front of the dock. Because that's how they got around. But this technology had to be suppressed, had to be replaced with a motor car. Because of course, the motor car was also showcased at this event. The first ever motor car powered by gas. But they already had electric, but they needed the combustion engine for you to burn oil. That's what this is about. Now we have a very intriguing story about this building, which is the Art Institute, or the World's Congress Auxiliary Building. Now this was supposedly built as a building for them to work on the World's Fair. So they built it and they said, right, we shall use this as our base to build the World's Fair. But what's strange is this was built 8 miles away. Okay, so that was a 28-minute journey by car. You know, if you expect they were horse and carriage, they could not make that travel in a short time. But they somehow built this building 8 miles away. Very interesting. Let me show you some more information about this. Now I'm going to prove that they're lying to you. So we can see here it says the Art Institute of Chicago was founded in 1879. But that doesn't make sense, because the building was supposed to have been made for the 1893 World's Fair. We can see here at the top right it says, the growth of the collection has warranted several additions to the museum's 1893 building, which was constructed for the World's Columbian Exposition. So how was it founded in 1879 if it was founded in 1893? It doesn't make sense, does it? We can see the sketch down here showing it. 1893 sketch of the New Art Institute, yet somehow they want us to believe that it was founded in 1879. That doesn't make sense. This gives us another view of the building. We see by January 1885, the trustees recognized the need to provide additional space for the organization's growing collection, and to this end purchased the vacant lot directly south on Michigan Avenue. The commercial building was demolished, and the noted architect was hired by Hutchinson to design a building that would create an impressive presence. These facilities opened in 1887. With the announcement of the World's Columbian Exposition to be held in 92 to 93, the Art Institute pressed for a building on the lakefront to be constructed for the fair, but to be used by the Institute afterwards. On October 31st, 1893, the Institute moved into the new building. And this just shows how far away this actually was. So this is where they built the actual fair, and this is where the supposed building which was in charge of the building was built. You can see that that is a 26-minute drive, modern day. So that would have been an incredibly long journey by horse and carriage. And you can check these coordinates for yourself. Does not make sense why they would travel so far. Why would they not build it right here next to where they were going to build it? Doesn't make sense, right? And we saw that this was supposedly constructed in 1893, so why would they build it in 1893? To be there for the building of the buildings in 1892. Doesn't make sense, does it? The timeline just is a mess for these people. They can't keep their lives in order. I promise to not spend too much time on this, but you can see from this position here, interestingly by the way, in this section were all the Axis powers, the Ottomans, the Germans, the Austrians. They were all here. And everyone else, the Allies, were all here. Some kind of strange cultural divide which permeated into the event itself. But we can notice this building here still stands today. So whilst these were temporary structures. This one was not, and we can get into that shortly. It's pretty evident that they're lying. We can see here, this land all around here was supposedly marshland before this. Just marshy land. Nonsense. But somehow they build this, and look around. What can you see? Nothing else. Look at this. This is the Art Institute of Chicago, the main building, the one that was supposedly built in 1893. And this is a photo from 1910 to 1920, and on the right, 1930. So we can see it, and even in the background here, there's nothing there. In the 1930s, there's nothing there. Behind it, we can see a few buildings. Obviously, the exposure is quite high, so we can't see much anyway, but this side, it's evident there's nothing there. We can see the lions, possibly the lions of Judah. And again, look at this. It looks so out of place, there's nothing here. It's like they accidentally built it here. They meant to build it where the fair was, but oops, we built it 8 miles up the road. 26 minutes away by car. What's a car? We don't know. Doesn't make sense. Now, obviously, by this point in the 30s, the car has taken over because they want you to be burning that oil. We can see the story just doesn't make sense. And to make it even more confusing, the Art Institute was actually at this building before. So we can see a perspective view of the museum published in 1892. So was it built in 93, 92? They can't get their story in order. Was it built in 87 like they said? 78? I'm not sure. But it does say that they were also stationed here. They built this entire building, and it cost them a lot of money. It would be equivalent to about $5 million these days. They built this, and then they immediately sold it. And they sold it to build this second one, apparently. That's what they say. But it doesn't make sense. We're going to shatter this narrative. We can easily see here what it looks like, and look at this. The building's looking extremely burnt and damaged, possibly after a fire. And what appears to be mud-flooded, buried sections to this museum. Does this look very new to you? Or does it look like they've dug it out of the ground? Looks like it was easily buried up to here on this side, perhaps, by the staining or the burnt marks here. And this, definitely, I'm not sure if this is water trying to put out some kind of fires. Now we get a view of the biggest building in the world, supposedly. This is what they say, that this was the biggest building in the world, and they in fact say that you could fit multiple pyramids of Giza inside this thing. That is a fact, you can look it up. That's what they say. That you could build one of these and construct, I think it was 50 Giza pyramids inside of it. That's how big this thing was apparently to be. And to my eyes, it doesn't look that big, personally. But as you'll see, it is the largest building ever constructed to this day. The largest building in the world. And they tore it down. Now, this gives us a view of the Field Museum. And it's a censored photo because they've removed the date. They've removed the date from the photo, and in fact, there were some scribbles that we might see in a second, which kind of resemble almost Phoenician letters. We're not entirely sure yet. We are investigating this, which is why we need your help. As much support as you can give, share this video. Make sure you share with everyone you can, because we need as many subscribers as we can get so we can really get this story out there and get as many people as possible on the case, because without your help, we'll never find out the truth. So again, look at this. It doesn't make sense, does it? Where is everything? They've built this in 1878 or 1887 or 92 or 93, they're not sure. And this picture evidently shows that we have the running trains. The trains are running fine. How dystopian does this look? This looks like the end of the world, doesn't it? It looks like something has burnt or bombed or removed every building except for this one. This one has survived, this tiny thing. And somehow, this is just here in the middle of nowhere. Tell me how that makes sense. And this is for art, the Institute of Art, because obviously, all these people have loads of art that they need to store. Can't you see them all? They're all artists. They're here, they're there. Look, artists everywhere, painting. You can't see it? Sculptors, right there. No? Doesn't make sense, does it? So whose art was this? Do you think this was the art that belonged to the previous civilization that they've clearly destroyed? Look at this, evidently destroyed this previous civilization. Burned, I'm going to say burnt out houses, because we had the fire of Chicago. How many years before? So I'm pretty certain that this, because the building is of a stronger nature, it's built with a lot stronger stone, it's meant to last. It's clear that this building survived whatever went down here, so I'm going to say a fire, because bombs obviously would take down that. So I'd say maybe some kind of fire bombs pushed out of the top of an airship. We see that portrayed in many media today. Oil barrels with fuses pushed out of an airship as it flies over, dropping down, setting fire to the entire city, inferno. And because of that, of course, when you do that, when you set fire to a city, the fire itself burns all the oxygen. Because the fire is so large, it burns all the oxygen. And now what happens when there's no oxygen? Well, of course, other oxygen will rush to fill that space. So where there has just been air that has now been combusted up, has fueled the fire, that now gets a rush of new air from outside the city to fill that missing air. Do you see what I'm saying? And that creates a vortex. So people on the outside of the city would quite literally be sucked in, vacuumed into the city, into the inferno. That's how bad it would be. Truly terrible way to go. And this is evidently all that's left. The Field Museum sits alone in an otherwise unimproved part of Grant Park. We can see, yes, sits alone, otherwise unimproved part. And Grant Park, by the way, is the one that's miles away, absolutely miles away from the Columbian Exposition. Now we see these symbols that I was mentioning. Very strange symbols found at the top of this photo. So for me, this photo comes from somewhere else. Maybe we didn't take this photo, because we can see that the date at the bottom has been edited out. So they've removed that purposely, so you can't see when the photo was taken. And we have some very strange symbols. Is this possibly some kind of identifier? Some kind of code? A dating maybe? A dating system we aren't aware of? Past civilization and this photo's been found? Very strange. There are a lot of questions to be asked. If we look here, we can see some similarities possibly. Maybe they're mirrored, but there's only one that truly resembles. It's very curious. Lots of questions to be asked. Make sure you share this. Share this with everyone. If you don't share this, the government will be coming for you. Now this is the worst bit. We see here, this stadium is supposedly constructed 1922 to 24. Opened in 24. So 99 years ago is when this was opened. And look at it. We can see that the picture is copyright 1926. Look at the state of this in 1926. Now this is many years after we saw our empty photo of this. This is that building, so there was nothing here. We saw clearly, didn't we? Nothing here. It was empty. Yet somehow, this building is in the background. We can see it looks like a ruin. It's already in ruins. This hasn't just been built. It's 2 years after it's opened. So did they open it in 1924 and just leave it looking like an absolute building site? How did people get here? They just drive up, park out here and walk through the building site? Doesn't make sense. And you know what? We'll just go back a little bit and you'll see something here. Look at that. That's very strange, isn't it? That almost looks like the sea. And there's a shape. We can see a shape here. Look. To the sea and a shape. Nothing here. Yes? Sea and a shape. And it looks as if the water itself has drained away to reveal underneath there was a stadium. Very strange indeed. You see? Once again, look at that. You can clearly see that this is the water, the lake. So we can clearly see that this is Lake Michigan. So we can evidently see that this is Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is covering up the land behind this building, and the water is covering a shape that looks very horseshoe-like. And what happens? When did it, the date has been scrubbed off this, remember? So the date's been scrubbed off. They don't want you to know the date on this. But we can see from the lack of road development, because it does appear to me that the roads have got better on the next photo. If we look now, this is incredible. Absolutely incredible. If you don't think that this is a smoking gun, then I don't know what to tell you. Because look at that. The roads have been developed, clearly. They've built the roads up. The roads are looking better now. But this was Lake Michigan. All of this was Lake Michigan. And the train line must have gone all the way down the coast. So this was Lake Michigan. How have they done that? What have they done here? We could see the horseshoe shape. Has this area been flooded? Has that been what's occurred here? Was this submerged underwater and we've slowly seen it become unsubmerged? Is that why this building is how it is now? Was this underwater? Were all these areas underwater? Maybe the coast came out to here and they couldn't get out here yet. But there's definitely something very strange, because 1926, we can see the trains, the road, take it back again, the road is much better. Look at this. There's essentially no road. They built this with nothing, with no road. How do the vehicles pull the material from the trains to the site? With the people just walking it, horse and carriage, across the dirt? Would have been very difficult, but we can see here the outline of this building. It's submerged under Lake Michigan. So I'm going to presume that this was also under Lake Michigan. And the water, we can see sections of water here, can't we? Look. And they did say it was marshy swampland, didn't they? So, this would have been underwater too. This is the smoking gun. We found it. This area was entirely underwater, and they're lying to you. They want you to believe we built it. But it was submerged. Once again, look at this. And now suddenly, the horseshoe shape has become a building. Built in 1922, which I think that means that's when it became unsubmerged and they were able to get over there and repair it. And go, look what we made! Come and play baseball! This doesn't make sense, does it? And interestingly, that building we just saw, the Field Museum, so that's the one. In 1893, all of the artifacts that were at the Columbian Exposition, they were transported from this event to that Field Museum. Why do you think they did that? Because it'd been underwater before that. And then once it was out, it was dry, they said, let's move all the art there. Because the art had originally been over here at the Columbian Exposition. Of course, the Columbian Exposition, they say the buildings were all temporary, which we're going to see. They say they were all temporary, except this one. This one is not temporary. It's the only one that isn't temporary. All the others were temporary, and they tore them down, and there was a few fires, but this one was not. It had to be repaired, though, interestingly. For some reason, in the 30s, it was already in ruin, which we're going to look at. So this is the building. Different photos throughout its time, all before it's been reconstructed. So this is the original model. This is the back of the building. The back here, so the front has the lakeside, the lake view, which we're seeing now. This is the gondolas going past. And this, very curious, so this is the Field Museum again. The people going to visit the Field Museum. There's nothing there. And of course, on the other side is Lake Michigan covering up the baseball field that hasn't been emerged yet, hasn't emerged. So the people are being forced into the museum to go and see they're walking, looking, all this across dirt, no paths, no real paths. They're all just being marched up to go and visit the museum. Great day out at the museum. Go and see all the art. That's what they want you to believe. Nonsense. If you believe that, you'll believe anything. Look at this. So they completed the museum and they were like, great, let's get everyone in. Do you think we should do any work outside? No, it'd be fine. Just leave it how it is with all this rubble. Where's the rubble from? Did they not clean up after construction? Was that not necessary? Or was this already here? This is the destruction, not the construction, but the destruction. This is the destruction of the area. And presumably, this building is all that survived being submerged. I'm guessing the water would have been up halfway, maybe, and they wouldn't have been able to get in until Lake Michigan receded. So whatever caused Lake Michigan to burst its banks and flood this city, and for how long, that's what we'll have to find out. I want you to let me know in the comments what you think happened here, when it happened, because I need help. You guys are the only help I have. But together, we can do this. These liars can't lie for longer. Not with us on the case. We've got this. Now I'll go on for a little bit longer. Look, this is a supposed construction site picture. Look at that. Construction, they say. But they're digging it out. They're digging out the building. Look at that. There's more rooms under there. So evidently they have dug this out. The water receded. They've dug it out. They've cleaned it. Cleaned all the stone, and you can actually see the way that the bottom stone here is much cleaner than this section, because this section was under the ground. So this was under the ground, this section's been hit by water and been stained by the muddy water, and down here is where because obviously they're on the ground, they're cleaning from the bottom up. So they're cleaning all this, and they're going to get to this section next. They'll clean this up before they show everyone, and it'll be nice and clean like that soon. The way they lie to you, terrible. That's why here at Old World USA with me, Jack Stevenson, we are going to unearth this mystery. Now, we just missed a very important slide because I was talking about Old World USA, but make sure you do subscribe if you're not subscribed, like the video, share it with everyone, put it on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything, because we need to get this out. This is the smoking gun. I've seen so many videos on this topic, and not a single one has ever covered this. Not a single one. That's suspicious, right? Because it's right there. The evidence is there. They've never covered it. So if any of them want to come and talk to me and debate me on this, I'm more than happy. Because we can see here, £5 million museum begins soon. 1921 to present. So this article's from 1907. And interestingly, it says, location 1400s, Lakeshore Drive. Is that because they're trying to let you know that this building was actually built in the 1400s? Is that what they're trying to say? Or is it just a number? Because obviously, 1400 Lakeshore Drive, there's 1399 right here. Can you not see it? 1401 on the right here. Can you not see that? All these buildings. Oh, wait, no, there's nothing there. There's nothing there, is there? That's strange. So why would they need 1400 South Lakeshore Drive if there's nothing there? Very curious. But 1907, this is telling us a £5 million museum to be constructed soon. So 1907. But I thought this was built for the 1893 Columbian Exposition. Isn't that what they said? I thought that's what they told us at the beginning. We'll have to double check that. But I'm pretty certain they told us that it was constructed in 1893. So yeah, remember the opening date from the second slide. So 1921 grand opening. Yet we see 1893 is when our building was supposedly built. And we can see travelers today may visit Greek and Egyptian buildings which have stood for 2,000 years. Will travelers be visiting the Field Museum 2,000 years hence? And look at this. Almost all of the fair structures were designed to be temporary. Of more than the 200 buildings erected for the fair, the only two which still stand, so only two still stand apparently. Almost all of them are temporary. The Fine Arts Building, now the Museum of Science and Industry, is the only surviving structure of the Chicago World's Fair. The only surviving one. According to Britannica.com, there were once as many as 800 to 1,200, so these are very differing numbers, but only about 30 survive. So what is the truth here? Is it 200 with 2 surviving? Is it 1,200 with 30 surviving? We can't seem to get a very straight answer. And again, This is as the area gets built up. That same building founded... there we go. We can see it down there. So look at this. This is circa 1921. So this is a 1921 photo showing the same thing that we saw, but it's saying that it was opened May 1921, but founded in 1893 by one of Chicago's richest men, Marshall Field. How does that make sense? How was it founded in 1893? But it was also founded in 1878, and it was also built in 1921. And we saw this picture before, with our date cut off, our strange symbols, and in the background, evidently Lake Michigan has covered up the baseball field. What do you make of that? Because it's very, very suspicious. $5 million to create. Absolutely insane. This is a view of the site. But I think for now we'll leave that there, and we'll come back to this on the next video. We've got some pictures to go through from the actual events. We've got some guides to look at, and we'll find some holes in there. We'll find some more smoking guns. But this is the biggest smoking gun. This is undeniable. Anyone that denies this is a shill. Or maybe just indoctrinated, because like I said, indoctrination is very hard to get out of. So let me know what you think about that down in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you don't, I'll know, and I'll find you, and I'll force you to subscribe. But until next time, my friends, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Old World USA.